Fine.
All right, let's do a video tonight. Late night at Willowdale. Okay, so tonight, clean night plan. This night we're gonna watch Anthony Bourdain's special on Trinidad. All right, we planned this whole evening. Police from Trinidad wanted to watch it, and sure enough, it's exempted because another silly so-called terror attack in London. And CNN, because they love terrorism, CNN is the Terrorism News Network. I think basically they're an affiliate of Al Qaeda or ISIS. CNN just loves this stuff. And oh my God, another attack on London. We'll just milk it for all it's worth. We'll pick up all these filthy, dirty terrorism experts, because the terrorism industry, as you know, is a filthy, dirty. Peter Bergen and Phil Mudd and Julia Kayyem and all the people who make money off of human tragedy. Oh, they're a disgusting group of people. So, anyways, our Anthony Bourdain special on Trinidad was exempted for another attack on London, which happens all the time, and we're getting kind of bored of it because CNN doesn't cover attack. There was an attack in Mali today. Did CNN cover that? Did they attack? Did the CNN cover the attack on the Iranian parliament a couple of weeks back? No, because Iranians don't matter. They're not humans. They're an official enemy, so we don't care. Do they have major coverage of constant attacks in Iraq or Afghanistan or Somalia? Or, you know, this stuff goes on all the time. But if it's an attack in Britain or the United States, it's major coverage. If there was an attack in Canada, they get minor coverage. But Britain and the United States, they give major coverage, because let's face it, Britain and the United States are very similar countries. So tonight's attack, we were now learning it's probably some nasty Brit who hated Muslims in retaliation for all the other attacks. And Britain and the United States, now of course, once CNN knows that it wasn't a Muslim doing the attack, they're not going to care anymore, because they only care when it's Muslims doing the attack, because CNN,
it supports their narrative, right?
It supports their narrative that Muslims are all bad, and and then they have all the so-called racist. It's a racist. Let's face it, it's racism, right? Peter Bergen and Julia Kayyem and Phil Mudd and all the other all the anti-Muslim types on CNN who just John McCain and Lindsey Graham. They just go crazy like. But now, we're thinking in London, it wasn't a Muslim who did the attack. It was probably some nasty white guy who hated Muslims. But of course, they'll eventually just say, okay, no more coverage on that, because, hey, if a Muslim didn't do the attack, Americans don't care, because Americans generally hate Muslims. If a nasty little white guy did the attack, or a Brit did the attack against Muslims, we don't care, because that's not an issue for us. And we'll eventually not. We'll just, because now we don't know, but eventually we're going to lose interest, because basically
the only terrorism is
non-Muslims don't commit terrorism. Only Muslims commit terrorism. Okay, terrorism is a word associated with Muslims and Arabs, Palestinians, whatever. Okay, it's not. So if you're like in Washington last week when that guy targeted these Republicans and Steve Scalise. That wasn't considered an act of terrorism. That was just typical American violence. And, of course, Americans they just take that as a stride. Like mass shootings in the United States happen every day. The same day the Scalise shooting was a big mass shooting in San Francisco. Nobody cared. Because they take it in stride. Violence is part of the American way of life. We love violence. If it's violence committed by a Muslim, it's terrorism. But if it's violence committed by a white guy, it's just violence, and we accept violence because we are the most violent country on the planet Earth. 93 gun murders a day in the United States. 93 gun murders a day in the United States. Okay? But that's not considered terrorism. The attempted assassination of Scalise,
that was terrorism.
That's not terrorism. That's just violence. That's just gun violence, and we don't care because we love guns, and Americans love guns. So tonight in London, I could tell on CNN, even though they didn't need to exempt all the programming that they had scheduled for this incident, because they were so hoping it was another Muslim who was responsible. But once they found out it probably wasn't a Muslim, they could tell they're already losing interest, because terrorism is only committed by Muslims, and if a white guy does it, or a Brit does it, or a guy attacking Muslims, that's not a big deal. I remember when the mosque in Quebec City, CNN covered that. But once they realized it was an attack on Muslims, they didn't really care, because kind of Muslims deserve it, right? Like, and I remember the White House totally screwed that up the next day when when Donald Trump thought it actually was a Muslim doing the killing, but they didn't realize it was just a typical old racist Quebecer doing the killing, and they didn't have any connect. Yeah, so anyways, we're going to see how CNN plays this out. Probably lose interest pretty quick when they realize it's just a white guy killing Muslims, and they're just going to get bored, and because they're only interested when Muslims are doing the killing, because that appeals to their base, and they basically are the Terrorism News Network. So I mean, CNN doesn't have a lot of credibility. Okay, tonight's a classic example. They'll play this out for hours until they realize, okay, Muslim wasn't involved in the killing. Muslims got killed or injured, but Americans don't care about that, because Americans generally enjoy when Muslims get killed or injured. And as long as if it's not a Muslim doing the killing, Americans lose interest, because the hatred towards Muslims in the United States is intense. So, and CNN basically is, in many ways, a racist. It's the racist news network. It's not. It really is the racist news network. So,
but they had Reza Aslan on, though.
Yeah, and they got rid of him because he made some intemperate comments, and so. But let's go on beyond that. So, let's go on as CNN based in the U.S. into the nutty world of American politics. I'm not going to prolong this, but it all links, right? The Iranian parliament got attacked 2 weeks ago, and Iran got attacked by ISIS. And don't forget, Iran is working alongside Canada, the United States, and coalition partners fighting ISIS. They get attacked, and Donald Trump blames Iran, basically. So you deserve to get attacked. Justin Trudeau says nothing. Most Western countries say nothing. The UN did condemn the attack, but frankly nobody cared, because Iranians are official enemies and they deserve to be attacked. The whole thing is it's so laughable. Now Qatar is in the crosshairs. No one knows. Donald Trump says Qatar is funding terrorism. Rex Tillerson's trying to make amends with Qatar. Qatar holds the major U.S. military base in the Middle East is in Qatar, and the whole thing is so laughable. But Saudi Arabia controls all the strings, and obviously controls Donald Trump, and oh my God, so the whole thing is, Iran had a democratic election a month ago, while Donald Trump was in the country where they chop people's heads off, and nobody cares. Iran is the official enemy, even though they're relatively democratic. Not perfect, by God, not perfect by any means. But Saudi Arabia is a beautiful place where they chop people's heads off. Women have no rights. Oh my God, it's probably the most vile, despicable country on the planet Earth. So then Trump has a thing on Cuba, because he has to fucking satisfy the nutty, whack jobby Cuban community in Miami and South Florida. And so he says, we're going to roll back Obama. We're going to roll back some of the détente with Cuba. Stupid. He talks about human rights. Cuba is probably one of the more democratic countries in Latin America. Like Iran, it's still dictatorship, but it's opening up, and Trump talks about human rights when he just came back from Saudi Arabia, where he's cozying up to the Adolf Hitler of the Middle East, King Salman, a real thug and murderer. Like, oh my God! Like even CNN said, okay, Trump, even the Terrorism News Network, CNN said, oh yeah, Trump just came back from a place where they chop people's heads off for minor offenses, and he's actually lecturing Cuba about human rights. Like, come on. The whole thing is so fake news, so Orwellian. No wonder why 1984 is the most read book these days. We live in an Orwellian, screwed up society. And like tonight, and I'm ending this with tonight's CNN coverage of the London thing. You know, they didn't have to exempt older programming for this London thing. If this had happened anywhere else in the world, they wouldn't have cared. But they didn't even cover the London. The biggest story in Britain is the fire that killed lots of people in London. CNN didn't even cover that. But terrorism, especially when they thought it was a Muslim doing the terrorism, they're all over it, and they'll just exempt all programming. But now they're finding out it probably wasn't. This was something targeted at Muslims, and now they're going to lose interest because, frankly, hey, nobody if Muslims get killed, we don't care. Americans don't care. And yeah, you'll watch the CNN coverage just tone off. We don't know where. I'm not saying I don't know what's going on in London, but it assumes that some angry Brit guy who hated Muslims in retaliation for all the stuff that's gone on before, and yeah. Watch that coverage. How that just, yeah. Because terrorism is only something committed by Muslims. Okay? If it's a guy targeting U.S. Congress people, that's not terrorism. That's just violence. Terrorism is something only committed by Muslims. And you watch CNN won't call it terrorism when they find out it's just some angry white guy targeting Muslims, because if angry white people target Muslims, that's not terrorism. That's just, hey, that's retaliation or nastiness or whatever. Anyways, and Britain is a screwed up. I can't think of two countries that are more screwed up than Britain and the United States. Okay? Britain just had this weird election, a very divided place. And Britain is despite there's a Muslim mayor of London, Britain is a country that's never integrated Muslims well. All their colonies, Pakistan, India, all their colonies with lots of Muslims came into Britain. They live in ghettos and in the Midlands and Leeds and Manchester and Birmingham, and there's a lot of anger. Brits have never integrated people well, and the United States in many ways hasn't integrated people well, and neither has France, and that's why you see some of this violence that's happening. People are just fed up. So there's reasons for all this. But yeah, tonight was a classic example of just nuttiness. And I watch CNN a lot, but I take it with a grain of salt, right? And all the pundits and punditry, and especially on the U.S. domestic scene. But CNN is such a silly network in many ways. And I can see where it comes under a lot of criticisms from a lot of people. And I think the classic is Van Jones, the big lefty on CNN. Van Jones wears suits that could probably feed half of Africa. Van Jones is one of those guys. I'm, the hero of the black community, but Van Jones wears suits that are probably worth $15,000, $20,000. He could probably feed the south side of Chicago with a couple of his suits. He's a disgusting human being, and I have to admit, CNN is a bit of a joke, and tonight was a classic example. And Cleve, please tell me there's human life beyond this earth.
Yeah,
We've got to go somewhere else. This craziness.
It's in Europa. It's everywhere.
We've got to go beyond this earth. We got to get beyond this stupidity and ignorance and hypocrisy and all the lies. Not the Donald Trump lies, but the lies that committed by CNN and all the rest of them. God, this London thing tonight on Sunday night, and we're doing this on Sunday night, it's just a classic example. So, anyways, like I said, by Monday we'll know, and if it was a non-Muslim who did the attacks, this won't be a story, because that's not terrorism. Terrorism is only committed by Muslims. All right, that's it.
That's it. Okay.